Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to keep looking at the Shards of Alara decks, and we're going to move on to look at Primordial Jund, which is the black, red and green deck, representing the Shard of Jund from Alara. So let's dive into that and start looking at it. So, the theme of the deck, yeah, I suppose it's the theme of the deck, is Devour, which is Jund's faction keyword. So Devour basically means when you play a creature with Devour, you can sacrifice creatures, and the devouring creature gets counters on it depending how many creatures it devoured, and a lot of them usually have some sort of ability that synergizes with the number of counters on them, or they just become big creatures. So producing tokens, or that creatures that don't really mind being in the graveyard, or having cards that trigger on creatures dying or being sacrificed. Kind of a big theme in this deck, I suppose. So one of the rares of the deck is Mycoloth. So 3 and 2 green for a 4/4. Has Devour 2, so as it comes into play, when you sacrifice any number of creatures, it gets twice that many +1/+1 counters. So for every creature it eats, it gets 2 counters on it. At the beginning of upkeep, put a 1/1 green sapling creature token into play for every +1/+1 counter on Mycoloth. So this, I think, is pretty good, and it is actually pretty nutty, at a casual table. Because I think even if this eats like 2 things, say it eats 2 saplings or 2 tokens, because there's things in here that make tokens. So this then comes in as an 8/8 that makes 2 tokens every turn for free. It doesn't require any other mana or tapping or whatever. And the tokens it makes are then fuel for other creatures to eat. And this being only like 5 mana as well is pretty good. So it has like a really high ceiling, honestly. Mycoloth is honestly it's pretty good. I think it's a really good rare to have in this deck, I think. So good start there, I think, with Mycoloth. This also, it being a fungus and making saplings, means it was an absolute godsend. To sort of all the fungus thallid decks that were in Time Spiral. If you were still playing with those at the time, this absolute godsend. 2 Thorn Thrash via Shinos, so 3 and 1 red for a 2/2. Has Devour 2, and you can pay a green to give it trample turn to turn. That's really good. That you can give it trample. Obviously, it might be pretty big. If it eats 2 things, it's getting 4 counters on it. And then obviously when it's got high power, you want it to trample over, and not kind of be blocked forever. So I think it's perfectly fine for a common, I think. And then Thunder Thrash Elder, so 2 and a red for a 1/1, but it has Devour 3. So whenever it eats something, it gets 3 counters on it. So it has again, I think it has a high ceiling. But I mean, that's all it does. It just has the chance to be quite efficiently costed. I think the best way to look at it is it's just a 4/4 for 3, and you have to sacrifice a creature as an additional cost to playing it. That's probably the best way of looking at it. But it eats 2 things. It's a 7/7 for only 3 mana. All these I think are pretty fun. The Devour creatures. So Sprouting Throwing Axe doesn't have Devour, but it works super well with Devour creatures. So it's 1 black, 1 red, 1 green for a 3/3. When it dies, you make 3 sapling creature tokens. So this is super good with the Devour creatures, because you that was it. That was in terms of Devour creatures. It was those, and that was it. Kind of like the Grixis deck, in that a lot of the deck space is not really dedicated to the gimmick. But what I think this deck does instead, as you'll see, I think the synergies and interactions are a lot stronger. Anyway, Sprouting Throwing Axe, so when it dies, it makes 3 tokens. So, you could have the Throwing Axe, play a creature, it eats the Throwing Axe and gets its counters, makes 3 tokens, and then you've got 3 tokens there to be eaten by the next creature with Devour you play. So Sprouting Throwing Axe is pretty good. I think even if you're not doing all the Devour stuff, the fact that it just dies and then makes, adds 3 power back to the board, 3 chump blockers, I think it's pretty good. And really good having 2 of those as well. Actually, it's uncommon, so I would expect there only to be 1 of them. 2 Jund battle mages. So it's good. I think this is the first Alara deck we looked at where one of the battle mages actually in it, which is good because the battle mages are pretty good in my opinion. So 2 colors, 1 red for a 2/2. 1 black tap, target player loses 1 life. 1 green tap, make a saproling creature token. The green ability I think is by far the best of those 2 abilities, but you know the black ability is useful as well, just to drain someone for 1. But being able to just keep pooping out tokens is really good. So yeah, good creature to include in here. And then Hissing Iguana, whatever. 2 colors, 1 red for a 3/1. Whenever another creature dies, doesn't have to be yours, can be any creature. Hissing Iguana does 1 damage to a player. So yep, you've got maybe a lot of tokens that you're sacrificing to devour. Yeah, so this can kind of passively just keep chipping away at someone. You know, the fact it's fairly cheap itself. Yeah, and it's got fairly high power as well. You know, it can attack as well if the way is clear. Yeah, Hissing Iguana is pretty good in my opinion. Then we have 2 Carrion Thrashes, so 2 colours, black, red, and green for a 4/4. When it's put into graveyard from play, you can pay 2. If you do, you get a creature from your graveyard back into your hand. This is all a little pricey, I think, because it's 5 mana for a 4/4. Now, if it did that, return a creature back from your graveyard to your hand, like just when it died or when it came into play. Anyway, I think it would be fine. It would be essentially like an expensive. You know, be a bigger Gravedigger, harder to cast, a higher power and toughness, so it would be fine. It'd basically be Gravedigger. But the fact it's 5 mana for a 4/4, and in 3 different colours, which means it's actually technically below the curve because it's hard to cast. It should really be at least a 5/5 with that cost, really. And the fact you have to pay to use its ability, I'm not crazy about Carrion Thrash. I think it just feels a little expensive. Or maybe if it's like 1 colorless and 1 black, 1 red, 1 green. Yeah, I have no idea why it's 5 mana. I say if it was 5 mana and 4/4 and had this ability like for free when it died or when it came to play, I think it'd be fine. But as is, I think it's a little too pricey. So the other red deck is Flame Blast Dragon. So 4 and 2 red for a 5/5 flyer. When it attacks, you can pay X and a red. If you do, does X damage to target creature or player. Really just, you know, straightforward, simple, solid, rare. I really like it. It's not doing anything like amazing, I don't think, but it's like it's absolute casual gold. I think I really liked this. I think at the time I preferred this over Shivan Dragon. Actually, I still like this over Shivan Dragon. Just the ability to do the X and you know, burn other creatures that you know, like maybe smaller utility creatures that your opponent doesn't want to like use in combat. So you've got a way of hitting them. Yeah, I think Flame Blast is pretty good. Obviously, like pretty big mana sink, but like you've got 6 mana when you play it. So and then maybe next turn you've got 7, or even if you've got 6, you can still burn something for 5. So if it attacks in the end, it's unblocked. You're hitting your opponent for 10. So yeah, I really like Flame Blast. I think it's reprinted in a couple of core sets as well. Yeah, I think it's just really solid. I really like it. 2 Goblin Death Raiders, 1 black and 1 red for a 3/1 trample. Yep, this is fine. These actually went really well with all the Lorwyn goblins, just because you know they were black and red goblins, and you know fairly aggressively costed. You know, just 2 mana for a 3/1 trample is pretty good. Yeah, this went really well with a lot of like the Lorwyn and Shadowmoor stuff. I remember. A single Rip Clan Crasher, 1 red, 1 green, just for a 2/2 haste. You know, obviously pretty boring by today's standards, but at the time this was kind of okay as a common. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Obviously, just becomes becomes obsolete very quickly as the game goes on, I think. And annoyingly, 2 Goblin Pikers from 10th edition, just a 2/1 for 2. Yeah, just very boring, and honestly quite unnecessary because I think there's better cards it could have been. But anyway. You have 2 Dragon Fodders. Dragon Fodder is pretty great. So 1 colors, 1 red, sorcery, and you just make 2 Goblin tokens, which is fine, which is what the deck wants, because it wants kind of tokens. It wants things dying to get death triggers, or stuff around for Devour. Yep, Dragon Fodder I think is pretty good. I would love it if it was instant, so if it's essentially like red, raise the alarm, but you know, I'm fine with it being sorcery, it's okay. A single Resounding Thunder. So this is interesting. So this is the first Alara deck we've looked at that has one of these resounding cards in it. So they're not good, but they are a cycle. So there's 1 in every color, and basically they all They're all kind of overcost for an effect, and then they have super expensive cycling costs. So in this one, what it's cycling is 5, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green. But like when you cycle it, it has a bigger effect as well as drawing a card. So it's quite an interesting take on cycling to make the cycling cost more than playing the spell normally, but it has the bigger effect. Because we sort of saw that in way back in Onslaught block, where you had some spells where if you cycled them, you got like a smaller effect. So I think this is an interesting twist on it. But these were not good. Yeah, because what 2 cards and a red, for instance, does 3 damage to target ritual player. So, yeah, obviously that's like, I would say that's worse than lightning strike. Honestly, that's worse than, well, a lot of other burn at the time. It's worse than incinerate, and an incinerate was round at the time. So, and yeah, the cycling. If you cycle it for 8 mana, that's 6 damage, and you draw a card. But is that worth 8 mana? I don't think so. But it's there. It's there. The option is there if needed. And then 2 shocks, just simple shock. 1 red to do 2 damage to target creature player. Yep, shock, just reliable shock. And then the usual obelisk panorama tri-land that we've seen in all these decks so far. Yep. And then mana base of 3 forests, 3 swamp, and 7 mountains. So what could have been? I think we could have had like some more interesting cards, like some more of the death triggers along the lines of like hissing iguana. So Rockslide Elemental is probably my favorite one. So it's 2 cards and a red for a 1/1 first strike, but whenever a creature dies, he gets +1/+1 counter. Then you have Algae Gariel, which is 3 cards, 1 green, 1/1 Shroud. Whenever a creature dies, it gets a +1/+1 counter. And then you have Scavenger Drake, which is 3 cards and 1 black with a 1/1 flying. Whenever a creature dies, you get a +1/+1 counter. So I really liked these 3 like scavenger creatures, I guess you could call them, because I played a couple of them in like casual game stuff, and they get out of control really quickly when you have like a load of tokens like being devoured, or like you're just playing really recklessly and you're kind of chump blocking a lot. They get out of control really quickly. Another possibility I thought was Necrogenesis. So it's 1 black, 1 green enchantment. You pay 2, you exile a creature in a graveyard, not just yours. It can be any graveyard from the game, and you make a saproling. So it's another way of getting kind of tokens out, and then you got a token to sacrifice or chump with, and like get death triggers with. So that could be a potential. And Jund Charm, so 1 black, 1 red, 1 green for the charm. You exile a graveyard from the game, which is pretty. It's niche, but very useful when you need it. Or does 2 damage to every creature, so Pyroclasm, or you put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature. Like these effects are okay. I think the Grixis charm has still been the best one we've looked at so far, but this could have been in here. Alternate rare, maybe. I want to say instead of the Flame Blast, as much as I like Flame Blast Dragon, I think Broodmate Dragon would have been more interesting, just because it's all of the shard colors. So it's like more representative of Jund as a whole. So it's 3 colors: 1 black, 1 red, 1 green. For a 4/4 flyer, when it comes to play, you make a 4/4 red dragon creature token. So you're paying 6 mana for 8. 6 mana for 8 powers worth of stuff on the board, which is pretty cool. Just a fun card, I think. So, in summary, I think this one's okay. I think it's better than the Grixis one. Just say it doesn't use the shards keyword that much, but I say I do think the synergies are like a little better. And honestly, it's kind of goes wide with tokens on it, which is not something I was really expecting to see. But you got a lot of things that make tokens. You got the Mycoloth, you got the Jund Battle Mage, you've got Dragon Fodder, you got all kinds of stuff like that. So kind of interesting that it's go wide rather than go tall, which is really what Jund should be. And I think the Conflux one does a better job just because it has more cards with Devour in there. But this one's basically okay, I think. But that's just my thoughts on Primordial Jund. What were your thoughts after seeing the deck? Do you have any thoughts or opinions or stories about this deck? If you do, put a comment below and I'll give them a read. But I'll be back next time to look at the last Shards of Alara intro pack. But until then, thanks for watching and listening. Have a good day.